Okay, the test planning part, I suppose we were discussing about it, right? So that's, if we are not able to forecast all these things, or if we don't find a solution for this, and if it is not properly documented or properly projected, that's the problem from the planning side. Okay. And Asha, you had a question on requirement RCL. We couldn't complete it. What was that? Okay. All right. So all these have to be taken care well before the test planning, or so the test activity start. Okay. Which means, so now coming to the test planning part. So what should be there? A quick introduction first, which has the purpose of the testing, which means the module which we are testing. Okay. All right. So Asha is coming back. So I mean, usually testers go with test document, test case document, or with requirement analysis document. See, the basic thumb rule is it should be with requirement analysis document, then the test case document. Okay. As I said earlier, if you are in a maintenance project or an ongoing project, you may not have the liberty of having the complete requirement document. Okay. So that's where the knowledge transfer sessions will help us, and that has to be effectively planned by the test manager. It's his or her duty to make sure the newcomers or the all testers have a complete understanding about the requirement. Alright. So thumb rule is everyone should know or have the access to the requirement analysis doc. Okay. Then only it should be with test case. Again, I'm telling, generally it's the nature of the human being that we will not try to probe or provoke or probe more on whatever data that is unavailable for us. But as a tester, right, we should ask more and more questions, and we should get the complete information, unless and until we cannot have a fair understanding about the application at all, right? So it's good, or it's acceptable that if you pose more questions. Okay. So that's the reason I ask you any questions, because that inculcates or that cultivates that practice. Okay. Okay. There's a question from Sabita here. So, but we can always start working on test cases as and when any requirements are defined, right? Yes. But then again, I'm telling you, there's a phase-by-phase activity that happens if it is a matured model. Okay. So in a matured model, you will have the requirements defined, and then unless and until the test plan is created, okay, in few CMM level organizations, you are not allowed to proceed. Okay. Or if it is agreed well before, then we can continue writing test cases. Okay. All right. Okay. Coming back. So a quick introduction will help for the test in the test plan document. All right. So then the test purpose of testing is a summary, just a brief summary of the project. Okay. What we will be expecting from this project. I mean, not we, the client or the end user. Okay. Once that is defined, Then goes our objectives. This is again a subset of quick introduction. Okay. Now objectives are now defined from both testers, okay, and then the business analyst, okay, and developers. Okay. So what each of them has to cater, okay, and what is expected from this particular testing. Alright. Now the foremost thing here we require is the resources. Okay. Now I'll break this resources and the estimates together. Okay. Now let's say, now without knowing how much effort is required for this particular project, I cannot define the number of resources that are required for this project. Right? Agreed, everyone? Okay, Ruxan, I'm coming back to your question. So for user registration or online shopping, we have general idea and we can write test cases. But how shall we write test case for domain which we have no idea? That's what I'm telling you, right? So you have to do the complete requirement analysis. Unless and until you do that, you cannot move ahead, right? That's the reason you should ask more questions. You should understand the domain. It will take some time. So that's where the estimation or the test planning will come into handy for the managers. So now that I have a bunch of 25 members here, right? And I am pretty much sure you are all minimal experienced on testing. Okay, I'm expecting that you are of 1 to 2 years 1 to 2 years experienced, or you are just freshers who are seeking jobs in testing environment, which means I have someone who are not that great experienced as my resources, and I have to get the project completed, right? So as a product manager or the test manager, I have to do correct estimations. Okay, so I'll come back to this resource section once I do this estimation. So let's work out on estimation part. 1 second. Okay, yeah, sorry, I was responding to a question. Okay, so we'll discuss on estimates and then come back to the test planning. Okay, and hope you got my point. Why did I stop here? All right. Yes, no. Yes, right. Okay. So coming to the estimations. So now that you saw what are all the problems that are there and how to do the estimations, tell me down what should be the primary focus? How to define the test estimations from the experience that you had so far? I'll repeat the question again. With the discussions we had done so far, how to do estimations? What are the areas that we should check or see in order to prepare correct estimations? Okay, how much time to write test cases? Okay, how much time it will take for requirement analysis? Okay, so first is time, right? Or the schedule. Okay, next there was a point on the resources. Yes, right. Manpower. Yes, right. Resources or manpower. Okay. then cost. Okay, the project cost. Okay, then how clear are the requirements for resources? So how will the resource be clear when the project hasn't started at all, when they don't have the requirement at all? Yes, it's about the tools. Yes, right. The technology used. Okay, correct point. Yes. So based on the technology used, what is the skill level of skills and skill level of testers in the project, right? Yeah, so the application, the complexity of application. Good. Anything else? Duration of the project. So that's the timelines and schedule. That will come under timeline and schedule. Anything else? Yeah, it's the, okay, environment. Environment in the sense, yeah, it's same as this technology. Okay. So now, if you remember, we had a discussion about environments also. You rightly pointed. You have dev environment, test environment, and UAT environment, right? Okay. Now, it is expected from the testers that you will have to give a little UAT support, right? Everyone agrees on this point, right? So the, which means the number of times we will have to repeat the test. So this is also, I'll also add automation here. Will everyone agree to this? UAT is user acceptance testing, Ruxana, okay, which is done after our testing is completed. Well before it goes into production, right? Client will do a user acceptance testing and then will release into production. Okay, for that testers have to give some support like data creation or walk through about the scenarios, or sometimes they will give the test cases and we will have to execute on the UAT environment. Okay, so it might happen. So now looking at all these, right, we will have to give the estimations. Okay, shall we do for a simple example, or is that fine? Example will go. Okay, tell me one requirement where you want to do the, okay, let's define this way. Tell me one schedule, say, okay, I'll only give, I have 1 month of time. Okay, no, wait. Give me one requirement, please. Tell me one requirement which you want to, for which you want to have a breakup. Hmm. Any order. Okay. Any art is again known for everyone, right? So Lakshmi is working on mobile testing, looks like. She's asking more questions on me. Huh? Is that so? Alright, so let's take a domain where everyone is not comfortable at all. Tell me one domain or one application where you are not comfortable at all. Banking? Okay. Everyone is fine with banking? Yeah, I see many questions on anyone updating banking. Okay. So let's take a requirement on banking. Say suppose I have to create a loan calculator. Fine. Home loan calculator. Alright. So, so this is how I want a home loan calculator embedded into the company website. Okay, so it should be a link somewhere in the website, some location, and when I click on it, it will ask for the details, customer details, and then calculate. Okay, so this is the requirement that is given. Now tell me a vague idea. Okay, let's give this. The schedule is it should be done in 1 month of time. Okay, now let's do this, and the cost is 20K dollars. Okay, now the technology used is database, that's Oracle, and the front end is developed using Java. Okay, this is the technology used. Now what is the skill level of tester you require? We need a database tester and a web application tester. The count we will define later. Okay, now the complexity of application is, what do you think the complexity of application is? Easy, medium, 3 by 5. Okay, medium, easy, 4 by 5. Wow, so it's very easy. High complex, medium, not at all. Okay, it's a medium complex project actually. Okay, the reason being we didn't define the we didn't analyze the requirement at all. Okay, it's the individual perception whether it's in medium, easy or high. Okay, so this is where the product manager or the test manager who is doing the initial estimate should come into handy. His experience will come into handy. So as a manager, what will I ask is, what are the list of inputs you are expecting from user? Okay, and then that's where you will start, right? So what is that required? Customer name, and then you require the PAN card or SSN number in US. Okay, and then whether you have account with the bank or not. Okay, and then the income details. Okay, and then you will require whether the returns are filed or not. Okay, and then few other simple details like mobile, city of residence, married or unmarried, number of dependents, and existing EMIs, right? Yes. Do we need all these details for loan calculator? Yes, Lakshmi. Okay. Now, once this is given, right, and last one will be in the amount of loan expected and the product description. What kind of house is it all about? So these are the minimal requirements that are minimal details that are required from the customer in order to make sure, in order to do the loan calculator. Now tell me whether it's medium, high and low complex. Yeah, the amount of loan expected will cover that. Yeah. Now you guys tell me whether it's high, medium or low complex. Still low. Asha might be working in the banking sector. That's the reason she is not having. Okay, this is a medium complex project from my experience. Okay. All right. Now let's do the analysis here. So the complexity of application is medium. Okay. And how many environments are required? At this moment, this is only the first time we are developing. So we are using only test environment, no automation required. And no UAT support. Alright. Now let's break this. We have how many columns here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. 12 details are to be entered. Okay. And all 12 data, all 12 columns interact with database tables. And how many tables will be there? Minimal. One is customer information and the other one is bank account details information, income information, filed or not, and existing EMIs. So 5 tables will be there. Minimal 5 tables. Okay, in all these 5 tables the data should insert and it should retrieve also. Alright, and a new table will be created. And a new table will be created to insert the loan amount that is given, that is offered to the customer. So total 6 tables will be there, minimum. Okay, this is web application point. Okay, and there's a logic or a logic engine defined where by giving the input it will analyze whether the particular customer is eligible for loan or not. So what it should do is, based on the PAN card or the SSN number, if it is in India, right, based on PAN card the CIBIL score will be verified, and if he is or not eligible it will give the rejection or approval status. So what is it happening? It will contact a third party application and come back, right? So there is a web services testing also here, right? So the customer loan eligibility is defined in a different application. So it has to touch base, come back and give that information. So there is a web services testing also involved. Alright. It's just not defined on the salary. It's also on the what do you say, your loan eligibility. So in US I don't know what is the check factor, but in India it is CIBIL score. Okay. All right. So coming back. So if you see, there are three different areas of testing. One is pure web application or front end testing. The other is database testing and web services testing. Right? Okay. Why are we going for web services testing is the CIBIL score or the customer loan eligibility is defined in a different application. It's a third party application, which means our existing data or from the data from our web application has to interact with a different system, right? Yes, credit score in US. Okay, got it. So if you have to interact with a different system, you will have to plug and play. You have to plug to it and come back, get the information, right? So it's a web services testing. All right. So that's the reason you are doing here. So you see there are three different areas of testing here. All right. So what is the technology that you require? I didn't add web services test earlier. And also maybe to get the current market load rate. And that will be defined already in the banks, right? Shabar. So that's fine. Okay. Or if it is in a different table, you can again use that. All right. Now tell me, how do we define this? So the UI test cases will be around medium complex, and the count will be around, there are 12 columns, right? So 12 columns, each column if we have 2 to 3 test case also, worst case, right? If even it is 2 to 3 test cases for each of the column, you will have at least 40 test cases, 12 into 3, 40 test cases, and some positive and negative scenarios. So around 50 to 60 test cases of medium complexity will be there. Okay. Database test cases, again there are 6 tables, and you will have to validate schema, the data insertion, the data retrieval, okay, so on and so forth. So again you will have 6 into some 10, 5 test cases, so 30 test cases. Again these are all also of medium complexity. Okay, and web services testing. So again these are of one sending, one receiving data, one if it is going wrong, or if you are resending, how does it interact? If I'm using the same customer for multiple times, how is it interacting, right? So there are almost 5 to 6 test cases here, 5 to 10 test cases of medium complex, right? Now, so total how many are there? Around 100 test cases will be there, and these are all parallel activities. I'm not doing it only one person. I will not be assigning to do the entire activity. Okay, or if I don't have experienced person on this, I'll have to do it. I'll have to get it done by one person. But now I will have to see the schedule and timeline also, right? So based on that, I'll have to define the manpower. Now tell me how much the effort or how many UI testers you will require. Around 2, right? So 2 manual testers, 1 database tester, and 1 web services tester. Okay. Now two manual testers, one will be experienced and one can be low experienced. Okay, database testers should be at least 3 to 5 years experienced. And web services testers should also be the same. Okay, so that's how you will have to do the breakup. I didn't go into the depth, but on a high level I explained you how to get it done. Okay. Yeah, so do we need to do performance or load testing here? Yes, but this is not what we defined in, okay, let's not complicate more again. Okay, so if it is there, we'll have to do this also. Okay, yeah, good point you raised it up, Ashmi. All right, so if you see, this is how you will have to do the, on a high level, the estimations. And in your coming back, so far so good. Fine. Now how to do the estimations? I know it's very complex, but then again, from the fresher's point of view, you need not worry. But having a fair understanding about all this will help you in times coming soon. Okay. Some point you will have to have a fair idea about this. Now, so coming back to our test plan creation. So here you will define the resources that are required, the skill level, the count, and yeah, the skill is also defined and the count will be defined. Okay. Now the next one is the schedules. Okay, and the breakup of it. So from which date to which date we will be doing the test requirement analysis. Requirement analysis is already done by them. So when will we start writing test cases? Okay, when will the execution start? Okay, and when should that execution complete? So test case preparation and then execution start and end dates. Alright. The next one is risk and dependencies. So what is the risk here? What is the risk generally? Yeah, risk is something which will delay or which will stall or which will block the entire project, right? So here the risk is, first and foremost risk is time, as rightly pointed, right? And then what are all risks we have? If we don't get the build or deployed product from the developers, then there is considerable delay. So the number of days it will delay. If 1 day is delayed, then we'll delay execution by 1 day, right? So you will have to call this out. And then resource on leave, any unplanned leaves, okay? And then cost increase, that's wrong, right? Cost increase we cannot, because we have planned it correctly. We estimated it, right? Then only we came into test plan. Changes in requirement, yes. This is the most important and struggling area in any of the test project. So when you start executing, right, you will see that somewhere the design of or the framework that is created for the requirements and how the development has been done is wrong, right? Because of which requirements may change, and or because of timelines we might have to stretch to get things done. So this should be called out in risks and dependency section. Yes. Okay. So now the dependency point is, if you don't get the build or deployment from the developers, there will be considerable delay. Okay. We should also call out shutdown or external delay factors like floods, power uh, power shutdown, so on and so forth. Okay, so all the external factors have to be called out in risks and dependencies. All right. And then the environment details where where we'll be testing. Okay, so you will be testing in test environment. What is the database details that you will be testing? What is the UI URL? Okay, and what are the applications that you will be interacting as part of web services? So all these details you should call out here. And then the strategy. So who will start with the requirement analysis? Who will do the execution? Okay, if anything blocks, what should be done? Okay, if you find defects of high severity, whom should we escalate? Okay, or if you find any defect, what is the escalation matrix, or whom should we contact? And then if it is a blocker, right, how should we call it out, and whom should we escalate? All these details. And then if we have new requirements added, what should we do? Okay, all these strategy information should be mentioned in the strategy section. Okay, and then the last one will be the pass or fail criteria, which means you have tested the application and you are still seeing block defects even after the stipulated time or the schedule is completed. So then you will say, no, this particular application is a failure, it is not developed correctly, so it's a fail. Okay. All right. Any questions on test plan and estimates? Hello. Okay. All right. I didn't see any questions and no one has answered. Yes. Again, this test plan is done by senior testers or test managers. Okay. As a fresher or a starter, you might not have that, and what do you say, complete information about the entire application. Okay. And the nonsenses of product management. Okay. So that's the reason we might not be doing. It's the test manager or senior tester who will be doing. But you should have a fair idea about it. Okay. In test plan in agile environment, right, it is the what you say, during the sprint analysis all this planning will be done. You will not have a separate document as such for the test plan in agile environment. Okay. Only once test plan. See, for every sprint you will create test plan in Agile. The same goes for other models as well, wherein you will have, yeah, in waterfall model also, for every release you will create a test plan. It's once created, it's final for that particular release. Okay. In Agile, right, you will have a sprint planning session that will happen. Okay. In sprint plan, all the stakeholders will be there. Okay, even the developers, BA, everyone, and they will chart down what should be the plan for testing. Okay, so what is it happening here is you are collaborating with all the teams and finalizing. If you see, there's a risk and dependency. In the risk and dependency section, we said if you don't get the build in stipulated time, there will be delay in execution, right? So the same will be mentioned in this sprint planning. So that would be agreed in the planning itself. Here what we are doing, we are documenting it in waterfall and any other models. There that will be discussed, and the what do you call them as agile, the one who will be leading, I just forgot his the designation there. So he will document that in one single document. Okay, for all testers, developers, there will be one document, single document that will be maintained. In that, all these planning activities will be mentioned. Scrum Master, yes, right. Sorry, thanks for, yeah. So the Scrum Master document will have all this, whereas in other environments, testers will maintain the test plan document. All right. Yeah, sure. So, so feeler for you guys. We will have to extend one more session because we didn't complete the test execution and defect management. So, shall we join back on Monday? It's fine for everyone. Or do you have any other plans? All right. So I'll ask the team to send out an email for an extension of 1 day, and Monday we'll have the session. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for joining today's session. Bye bye. Happy weekend. See you on Monday. Yeah, sure, Hoda. Please watch the videos at least. Okay. Uh, Veena, ISTQB, it's good to prepare, but that doesn't, I mean, frankly, from my end, I haven't completed my ISTQB certification, and this is my 12th year in this industry. So it's just that a value addition, but it doesn't create anything special actually to your resume. It's good to have, but that doesn't have any, it will not call you out actually, from my end at least. But it's good to have certification. Okay. Yes, I sent you an email, my email ID, Kushal. Okay. Alright guys, thanks everyone for joining today's session. See you all on Monday. Happy weekend. Bye.